Welcome back, listeners, to the T.R.O.N podcast, The Randomness of Nothing. This is your host, Rashad Woods. Today, I have a very special guest from Sydney, Australia, Elizabeth Jane. She helps women with empowerment that go through challenging periods through their life. Is an author, speaker, as well as an artist as well, too. Many accomplishments, and here to tell her story on this show. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Rashad. Thank you for having me today.
It's been a pleasure. I know we've gone back and forth on some emails, and so I love your story, your positive vibe. And your story is yours to tell. So please, I'd want to hear all about you.
Yes, well, it has been a journey, as everyone has their own journey, of course. Mm-hmm. And it all started in I thought I had the picket fence and, the beautiful children and the marriage. And I thought it was all sweet. And
right.
In 2017, the bomb went off. Sort of my life changed.
Absolutely unbelievable.
And I didn't really have too much warning. My 25-year marriage dissolved, and my two youngest were just about to turn 18. And I looked around me and I thought, whoa, what have I had lost myself in my roles as wife and as mother. And I felt very alone. I felt terribly alone. I was in shock. I couldn't make sense of what was happening.
That's sad. I'm sorry to hear about that.
And then I realized that this roller coaster that I was on, all the emotions that I was feeling, shock, deep grief, anger, went through. And I thought, divorce is so common. Divorce is so common. And, 50% or something of us are going through divorce.
Correct. Right. Statistics speak for themselves, and not statistics, but the numbers that reflect the reality of it.
Yeah. And I felt so shattered. I suppose shattered is the word. The self-esteem plummets. And you're wondering what your purpose is on this planet. I was really wondering.
Oh my goodness!
What's happening here? And I thought it would all pass. I went to India and I thought, when I come back, it'll all be roses again. It's just male menopause.
Right. Let me the cycle of life will somehow turn it back into what I wanted previously, so to speak.
And then I realized, and so then organically I started to, because I'd always enjoyed uplifting people and I couldn't believe that I was so low. And so then I started to organically write down things that were working and things that were not to get me out of the hole that I was in. And then my book started to evolve. I explored many different modalities. I was very lucky. I had my Eat, Pray, Love year that's sort of continuing in a way, because
beautiful.
I don't believe we can ever stop learning, never stop evolving. And
right.
Yeah. And so my book, I wanted to keep it simple because I know people wanted quick fixes to feel good. I thought about
for sure,
because when we're so down, it's very hard to, we need quick fixes. We need something to grasp to get us through the next few minutes.
For sure. Right. It really could be a day-by-day process with people. Just try to make it through the next day, so to speak, right?
Exactly.
And they have this, I have not had experience, in that avenue, but people lose their self-worth. And I've heard, particularly when it comes to women, because they're the mother, the caretaker, they sacrifice a lot when it comes to on a personal and professional level, that they suddenly realize that they haven't established themselves, or they gave up a large part of themselves. Rediscovering that can be a challenge as well, too.
Yeah. Well, I think also, I think that, if someone said to me, women can lose themselves, but men too can lose themselves in a sort of what I call the old programs, subconscious programs that are running in our head, that men think that they have to be, men think that they have to be the breadwinner, that they have to work. And they can lose themselves in work. Women can lose themselves in work. We can lose ourselves in anything, actually.
For sure we can.
And I think that the most important thing that I say when I have like 10 minutes on radio, and I say, well, what can we do? What do we need to do? What's the big solution to this, to feel good fast? And it's really stop. It's as simple as that.
Right.
Stop with our busyness, because we all get so busy. We're busy with work, trying to earn a living, family, partying, whatever we're busy. We're overstimulated in this really fast world. But if we can just have like a couple of mindful moments during the day
Mm-hmm.
to reset. We won't be sort of swept with the chaoticness of the world. If we can just sort of stop and take some big belly breaths and
Right.
find the inner peace within us, because we calm down our parasympathetic nervous system. There's all the science
Absolutely.
to prove
Absolutely.
that we need to stop throwing down those coffees and buzzing away.
And try right, because then you're wired. And the other things,
Right.
and the other thing about it is too is that I've quoted this guest several times. There's a gentleman named Brandon Barham who's a guest on the show, excellent guest, such as yourself, and he said there's life by design and life by default. And it really starts to actually like resonate when you think about that. Are you just going to wake up, have your coffee, breakfast, go about the day, or do you actually have a plan design in place of how things are going to operate and function? Are you actually going to say, this is what I'm going to accomplish? This day is meant for this particular time period. Because to your point, people can autopilot, right? And it can become, and then you take, for instance, a divorce and, personal things that happen. You manage to turn that into a very positive thing for yourself where, okay, it happened. I'm not going to be defined by that because this is more common than it thinks. And then you've made it to where it was a positive outcome for you when it came to writing your book, getting into your art, and then ultimately helping other women as well, too.
Yes, well, I think, we just have to realize that we are worth it, because a lot of people have this inbuilt feeling that if they're not busy, they're not worthy. And
Right.
it's very unconscious in most of us.
Yes.
So most of us will have some little noise in our head saying, you can't just sit around and, breathe, and, you've got things to do. You have to be, you have to earn
For
a
sure.
living, and we've got all this noise in our heads saying that we need to speed up
Right.
rather than slow down.
Correct.
We're human beings.
Yes.
That's the key, not human doings.
Right.
And it's as simple as that. When
Yeah.
we stop, we become very powerful because we lift our vibe, we lift our mood.
Yes.
And then I believe, which has been shown in the books have been written, the law of attraction, we attract higher
Well,
vibe opportunities and
right.
people into our life. If we can
Unquestionably.
step
Unquestionably.
up the ladder rank and make a decision when we wake up that we're going to choose
Mm-hmm.
to follow our joy. We're going to not hang with complaining, shaming, regretting
Right.
of the past because it's spilt milk. Anyway, whatever.
I, I was listening to one of your interviews, and you were, I know you said there's a chapter in the book, the gentleman you were on with the radio show. I didn't manage to catch the radio host's name, but you were talking about, setting boundaries with people and how to communicate and stay away from judging and complaining. And you gave a good example on that show when you were talking. You said, there may be this person that's already had the rotten day, when they walked in the door at work or something that you have to be around them with. And it's important for them not to suddenly, you're not the burden of what they're going through. Right. So it's very important, I thought, when you mentioned, hey, boundaries, because some people may not want to speak up for themselves because they're like, hey, it's kind of awkward. I don't want to tell, here that, you're kind of a bit much and you're starting to weigh on me, even though I'm not feeling the way that you're feeling. And if this is going to be the normal behavior, this is not good for me.
Because the only way you can change your life is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the
Absolutely.
I talk about in my book, Free and First, Unlocking Your Ultimate Life.
I wanted to make sure you say that title, so thank you.
And in it, I talk about the ABC of me, and it's just, I say it as it's a simple tool to help you to set yourself free, basically.
Correct. Right.
So A is acknowledge, allow, and accept how we feel. Our feelings, our emotions, they're our superheroes. They help us work out how we're feeling and what we need.
Right.
But a lot of people in this busy world, as we talked about before, don't stop to feel how they truly feel.
Right.
We hide our feelings. We numb our feelings, by partying, being busy. Busyness in itself
Right.
will switch us off knowing how we're really feeling. So if we can't do A, we can't do B, we can't do C, we can't be free. So
Right.
B, as you talked about, is boundaries. If we know how we feel, and we feel good enough in ourselves then we can set our boundaries. But then another stumbling block is that we might think, I can't say that. I can't say that to my boss. Whoops. I'm not going to say that to my children. They might divorce me. They might leave me.
Right.
Say
For
that to my
sure.
partner. So in my book, I talk about a chapter of self-care so as we can, A, acknowledge and accept how we feel, but B, stand up. And it takes
Mhm.
courage, it takes
Right.
vulnerability to
Right.
speak how we feel. And then C, there's a whole chapter on the communication of our
Beautiful.
boundaries. So A, B,
Beautiful.
C. And I sound simple, but I tell you, it took me a few years to
Well, the thing that happens is that sometimes the easiest answer is staring you right in the face, right? And ultimately, people will scour the earth for nuggets of happiness. And there's a lot of, if you want to find negativity, it's very easy to find it, right? Because there's a lot of things out there that can, for lack of a better term, bring out the worst version of yourself. Because
yeah,
maybe you could, some of the highest ranking videos was somebody falls flat on their face, right? You never see like when somebody who botches a national anthem gets more views than the person that sang it really well, so to speak, right? So it's very important to gravitate towards things that bring you happiness. And I thought what was really interesting about your background was, in addition to that, what you've gone through and how you're helping other women and using your book, you're also an artist and a painter as well too. And you got into painting because of your children, and it says that they bought a cork and canvas class for you, and it kind of came from there. That's awesome.
Yes, well, I think that was a very vital part of my journey, the painting and the writing, the journaling, because what I really worked out is that when we're doing something creative and we're present with what we're doing, and for me, the painting and the writing helped me process my heavy emotions that get stuck within us and hold
Right,
us. And
right.
so it's like a bit of magic, really. It's like
Mm,
it's a free counselling session if you want to look at it that way.
right,
When we're following a hobby or something that brings us joy, or giving something a go, playing like a child, I often say,
absolutely, absolutely.
just take time out and we go, hey, I've got 10 minutes. I'm going to go into the bathroom. I'm going to shake. I'm going to shake because that's
Right,
what animals do.
right,
Animals shake. They shake
right,
for a reason because they want to shake off that heaviness of the fear that they may have experienced. A
right,
dog will shake in the street.
right,
So it doesn't matter what we do, but
right,
writing and doing something mindful can help us process heavy emotions that are stuck within us. And then we feel lighter and we lift up. And the beauty of that is it attracts better opportunities, higher vibrational
right,
people into your life. But the reason it does is because, as Einstein is quoted in my book, he said, no problem, no can be solved at the consciousness at which it was created.
right, right.
Having a bad day, and you sort of like, I had a bad morning this morning. I was talking to you. I was like, okay,
Doubling down on it doesn't help. It
I
doesn't help.
got lost getting to the studio here today, and then I got a parking fine outside, grabbing my
Right.
coffee. And
It,
if we hold on to that, if we
oh
hold
my
on,
goodness.
well, it will just keep us down. We'll attract more
You,
challenge.
oh,
We
you will. And I mean, and not only that though. Then what'll happen is that the normal conversation that could be with your kids, right? They didn't give you the parking ticket, right? And the next thing you know, you're lashing out because you got a parking ticket got lost, and you're upset. I call it, quote unquote, being stuck in traffic, right? Everything bad comes in when you're stuck in traffic, right? And then all of
mm,
a sudden, everything which was a normal conversation suddenly doesn't, like, the voice starts raising, people start getting upset, and then what was supposed to be a happy, joyous occasion, driving to a nice place, suddenly evolves into a disaster because you're stressed, you're trying to drive, you're stuck in traffic, there's construction, and then it just sort of snowballs from there. And I
yeah.
thought that it's crazy.
Yes, well, I think that's the key thing. If we can become more aware, when
Mhm.
we get into a challenging situation, we can say to ourselves, "Okay, right." So you have an angry person who comes towards you who's abusive to you. You've
Mhm.
got choice, haven't you? We've got choices. We can either say we can just sort of like keep quiet and hold it
Right,
within us, which is not good for our health. Holding on to heavy emotions it's not good. It's been shown.
right,
Medical science is onto this, that it's not good for our health to hold sadness within, to hold anger within. The other option is we can have a road rage concept, and we can we can
Oof,
and that doesn't do anyone any good. Just
destructive.
magnifies the negative energy. It is destructive. So the middle road is we have choice here. We can
Right.
say, okay, I've got this challenging opportunity, obstacle coming towards me. It is an opportunity, by the way, but
Hmm.
it's an obstacle. And we can
Right.
stand back from it. And if we
Right.
can breathe and not
Right.
take on the other person's angst.
And it can be hard too, right? Because, and then what you'll find out is that if you do actually invite that in, suddenly you start complaining too. And you end up in this vicious cycle of what I call, I'll keep it PG, the complaining fest, right? Where like you meet to complain with each other now, right?
Yes.
And it's a very, very, very toxic thing to get yourself into. One thing that I was very fascinated with your background was that, in addition to helping women, you're a speaker as well too. So how did your speaking career evolve once you like found yourself in your voice?
Well, I think that to go back when I was at school, I was afraid to do show and tell.
Oh wow.
Yes, so I was a very timid child, and they often, the people say that your obstacle becomes your opportunity. And when I realised that I had the courage to speak my truth and how powerful that could be, not for myself, but for everyone, to be able to be authentic and to feel into how they are, and and to be brave enough, courageous enough, and vulnerable enough to follow through with speaking that. And then I thought, well, this is magic. This is so potent. This is so powerful. And people need to know this, because for people to step into their best life, we need to be able to, well, feel how acknowledge how we
Right.
feel and follow
Absolutely.
through. We need to follow through.
Right.
And so I've always enjoyed uplifting people. And so this was just a natural progression. I realized through my times in India and spending time with all different modalities, sound, vibration, uh, tools
Oh,
and tips,
wonderful.
to lift up into a better place.
Beautiful.
And then you're viewing the world at a higher vibration. So you how you feel, you attract in relationships that reflect those feelings. So if we're feeling, I always give this example when you're in the playground as a child, and the
Mhm.
bell will ring, and the bully will fling the door open and fly into the playground. Now,
Right.
does the bully go and pick on someone who's feeling good about themselves?
Not at all.
So
Not at all.
the bully reads the energy
Right.
of the person who thinks that they're hopeless, that thinks
Right.
that they're already wounded, that they're a
Right.
victim,
Right.
and then they're matched with that energy. So we
It's
really need to power up. We need to power up by being mindful, being in the present. If we're lost in the past, shaming and blaming and would have,
right.
would have.
It's a very easy game to play. It really truly is. It's not helpful. It really isn't.
No, it just holds us back. It ties us in, chains us to the past, and it doesn't allow new opportunities to fling in the door. If we sort of like we're blocking our path to better
Right.
things.
Did you find is I don't know how it is in Australia, but the new emphasis on mental health, where people are a lot of times I'm 42, but even growing up, like you didn't talk about how you felt upstairs, right? Like it was just like teachers didn't have any clue with it. It's just a bad kid, or if people prescribed a pill, but it wasn't something that was emphasized. AKA, you just have to deal with it and get through it. But now there's an understanding that people actually do have conditions, and there are things that actually they have to work on that just as much, because you can look the greatest in shape, but if your mind isn't right, nothing, unfortunately, it doesn't matter, because your head's not in a good and helpful space. So is it like that in Australia, where there's been a more conscious effort to be more on the mental health side of things and really try to help people in that regard?
Yes, well, I think we're cottoning on, so to speak. I think we're getting there, because
Okay.
I always remember as a child thinking in America, this is how I felt. Gosh, they've all got therapists. Why do they talk about their therapists? Everyone's got a therapist. Well, every time I, would hear an American accent on radio, would be talking about, therapists.
Right, right.
We weren't really into all that. I wasn't, and
Yeah.
from like I'm 60 this year, and
Beautiful. Wonderful.
what's really, really happening in my life, and especially, like I think a lot of men have been told that you have to sort of not show your is it showing
Oh, for
your
sure. For sure.
emotions is a sign of weakness, but
Right.
it's actually the flip opposite. It's
Right.
actually when we can show our emotions and
Right.
be vulnerable, we're showing our strength. And that's when we power up,
Right.
because we can work out what we need and what we're missing and what we need.
Right.
And then as we do, there's put a boundary in place,
Right.
and it puts us in a better place.
So have other women come up to you after you kind of, you were willing to kind of, for lack of a better term, put yourself out there and said, oh, thank God somebody else is going through this, or thank God you started speaking up about what happened, and I'm not alone, so to speak. Obviously, you wrote your book for a reason, but how has the reception been when you really put yourself out there and told your story?
Yes, no, it's been amazing. I was fortunate enough to be based in Europe last year with my book. So I was in Europe,
Wonderful.
and I was handing out my books on the bus, so to speak,
Yeah.
and people were giving me big hugs.
Wonderful.
I have a lot of poetry that's come through, and one poem is follow. Or it was going to be follow the sun, but I'm
Okay.
thinking about making it follow your fun.
Yeah.
It's really in a nutshell, tools and tips to lift up into a better life, because
Right.
life's too short not to really be able to make it work for you, in terms of, bringing you joy. And the more
Yeah.
joy we can hold on to, then we're actually assisting our friends and family. And
Unquestionably.
that's really helped me to get out of the people pleasing, put myself last syndrome, by thinking, if I can lift me, then put my mask on first, and then I'm in a position to help my children and help
Right.
and they get my high vibe, because
Right.
you emanate a higher vibration. Whereas
Right.
if you're putting yourself last, you're worn out, then you think of your kids, think of your family, and
Mm-hmm.
you're passing on your low vibration to them, unfortunately.
Well, it's no different than when they tell you, like, I mean, obviously, I hope no plane crash ever happens, but when they tell you to put your mask on first, like you said earlier, or have your life vest on before you help somebody else, it's not selfishness, but it's like, in order for you to assist, you have to be in a good place to do so first yourself. And if
Yes.
you're not, then there's going to be bad things that can occur. Ultimately, like on a worst case scenario, you can't even save somebody drowning because you don't have a vest on. Right.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, so I thought that's very important when I listened to your interview when it came to, take care of yourself first, get yourself in a good place first. And your book is also obviously available, and it's on Amazon. And you said it was from what I understand, a very best selling one on there. So congratulations to you for that.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Rashad. And I have a second edition coming out.
Beautiful.
A
Wonderful.
bright yellow cover, and it's going to be hopefully all in different languages soon, and on Audible.
That is awesome.
Because I think it's so important when you actually hear a book, whether it's The Power of Now, by
Right.
Eckhart Tolle. If you're listening to it, you actually can benefit from the energy of the book.
That's awesome.
It's so important.
I love the vibe you give off, and I think the biggest thing about it is that I've started to subscribe to this knowledge, and it's helped me even get this podcast off the ground. Tomorrow is today, right? So the things that, like, and when you start realizing that tomorrow is today is tomorrow, that means you're not gonna. Maybe I butchered that earlier, but for lack of a better term, that means what you were supposed to do, you should be doing right now,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't mean punt it, because the worst thing that you can do, was procrastinate. And I had this thought in my head for a long time to start a podcast. And even though it wasn't divorce, I had self-doubt. I had apprehension. I'm not going to be a good host. Are people going to want to talk? Are they going to open themselves up? And it's been really a good organic process to just say, you know what? Like your kid analogy earlier, I'm just going to jump in the pool and see what happens.
Just give it a go.
Give it a try. Just see because kids are naturally curious. They grab things. If they, on a PG level, they'll grab thing. Hey, that burned. Don't do that again. But they're curious. But then when you're an adult, you start to lose those phases of curiosity. You get to more apprehensive, more self, what are somebody going to think of me kind of a mode. And it's very, very poor because you get in your own head.
Yes, so that's so important, that what you've just said, Rashad. I really find that subconsciously sometimes we're going through life ticking boxes and doing things for others and
Absolutely.
for their approval, because we
Right.
need that validation.
Right.
We may not be aware of that. I think that, like, it takes you really have to be very observant of your thoughts and
Right.
your actions. That's why we can't keep track of our 60,000 thoughts. We would have 60,000 thoughts a day. So that's
Right.
why I say it's much easier to keep track of how we feel.
Right.
And if we don't feel good about something, trust that gut instinct, trust that intuition. That's your goal, to actually trust you.
Right.
And, that's how we can actually get into a much better flow with
Right.
the universe and with our life.
Right.
When we put ourselves first, as the title of my book is, and it's not selfish. Don't listen to that little noise in your head.
Right.
When we hear, putting ourselves, I can't do that. I've got my children,
Right.
I've got my parents, I've got my husband. That's selfish.
Right.
It's actually selfing, as you said.
Right.
It's selfing. We need to put ourselves first, and then we're in a position to help others. Yeah.
So I always ask all my guests this. They never need me to do this. Where can people find Elizabeth Jane, her book, her story, her art, and her other interviews?
Yes. Well, the best thing is to pop up onto my website, which is elizabethjane.com, and then it's .au at the end for Australia.
Yeah.
And then hopefully my new book will be it's in the process, so it'll be in the next month or so.
Wonderful.
Yes. And you can also follow me on elizabethjane.life, my Instagram, for all interviews and amazing podcasts.
I saw that. I saw some of your sample episodes. It's wonderful too.
Yes.
I don't think happiness knows a continent, knows a boundary or an ocean. And so I think what you're going through, an American can go through, a Canadian can go through, a Brazilian can go through. And you went to Europe and people were hugging you. So clearly there's a global need for positivity. And I'm so glad that you are spreading that to people in need. I really am.
Yes. Well, it's contagious, I think. The more we can spread it.
It is. It is. It really is. And I've had a thoroughly enjoyable time. Now, also, so I would love to, is there anything a guy would feel comfortable reading this book, even if it's from that kind of perspective?
Absolutely. Because as I said, we can lose ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the crux of it is most people are so busy with life that we don't give ourselves the opportunity to feel what we need and to feel our feelings. So the ABC of me, to free yourself, applies to every person on this planet. Okay. Absolutely every person on this planet. If they follow the ABC of me, I'll tell you, you'll step up into a better situation, and just keep persevering, keep pushing on,
Right. So I just want to make sure.
Climbing the mountain, we have to enjoy the view as we climb it, but we will get there.
I just, as a guy, if it's like, hey, this book's not for me, you might be tucking it under your arm a little bit, right? Like, or if, it's like if a guy likes romantic comedies, he's like, yeah, he kind of hides the fact that he likes romantic comedies, right? As opposed to the big action movies, kind of speak, right?
Well, maybe I should keep the blue first edition, on for the boys, and the yellow and pink one for the girls. What do you think?
Right. I think that might work, but I got a pink shirt on, so you know what? It's hey, whatever. I think don't change anything for me. Like, it's out there for everybody to read. That's the most important thing, right?
Maybe I need a beige book.
That would be that might work too, right? So I just think that I love your story. I love what you're spreading across the globe, and I wish you very much continued success. I'm so glad, with the time difference, we were able to link up and have this conversation.
Yes, thank you so much, Rashad. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Well,